Thank you everyone for joining us for the Preparing Your Fruit or Cutting Up Produce webinar. We're really excited about this webinar since it's very different from the other ones that Orion has run recently. And if you're anything like myself, sometimes, the inability to cut a pomegranate or to find out the best way to cut a mango, it sometimes it creates some hesitancy for me to really try out some of these great new fruits and vegetables we're talking about. So on your screen, there is a chat window that you can open up on the left-hand side. There's a little bubble at the bottom. Feel free to leave any questions. If you have stories that you'd like to share, any of the above, we would love for you to share that in that chat menu. I will actually be monitoring that, and we can kind of create a discussion throughout the presentation. So I would like to turn it over and introduce Kristen. She is one of our Orion Health Coaches, truly an expert in all things health and wellness. And clearly she's going to give us the best tips and tricks on how to cut our produce and most importantly, make sure that we have all 10 fingers by the time we are done. So Kristen, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm excited to share with everybody kind of the tips and tricks that we figured out as we practiced cutting a lot of fruits and vegetables this last week. It's true that cutting fruits and vegetables can be a pain, especially if you don't know how to do it. But when you learn how to do it correctly and you have the right tools, it really doesn't have to be so bad. We'll go ahead and get started. Now, in this presentation, there is a lot of information about fruit and how to prepare it and how to store it. We'll mostly be focusing on how to cut the fruit. So feel free to refer to this later to get some of that extra information that we don't cover today. I just want to go over a few things, some of your essential tools when it comes to cutting fruits and vegetables. A stable cutting board is so important. A serrated knife is helpful. But what I really want to focus on is make sure that your knives and your pillars are really sharp. A lot of times we get nervous when we're cutting produce and we prefer to use the dull stuff because there's less of a chance of cutting off your fingers. But when you have dull blades, you have to apply more pressure and slipping happens more easily, and even a dull knife can still cut you. So if you're using really sharp knives, then you'll be able to cut a little bit easier, and that'll make the experience a lot more safe. You should also wash all your fruits and vegetables. There's quite a process fruits and vegetables go through, going from the farm or the garden all the way to the grocery store, and a lot of times there's bacteria and wax and film on those fruits and vegetables, and so just make sure you wash them thoroughly. And you actually shouldn't use any soaps or detergents. You don't need any special solution. You can just use your clean tap water to rinse off your fruits and vegetables, and that's actually pretty sufficient. It kills or it gets rid of most of the bacteria and wax and film. Okay, let's start with avocados. Ever since I learned how to cut an avocado, it's been one of my favorite things to cut. It's kind of fun. So here on this slide, there are a few tips for choosing a good avocado. The thing that's helped me the most is just peeling off the little stem on the avocado. And if it's really hard to remove that stem, then it's probably a little bit underripe, not really ready yet. If it's easy to remove and then it's yellowish green underneath, then it's perfect. It's ready to eat. Or if it's easy to remove and it's brown or really dark underneath, it's probably overripe. So you wouldn't want to buy those ones. You could buy an avocado that's underripe, and if you leave it on your counter for a little bit, for a few days, it'll ripen up and get a little more soft. All right, so cutting an avocado, I like to stick my knife in right up by the stem and then just make a circular cut all the way around. You're not going to be able to cut all the way through because there is that huge pit in the center, but once you reach all the way to the other side of the stem, you can gently twist the avocado and it will break right open into two halves. And then to get the pit out, if you have a really nice sharp knife, you can just gently whack the pit with the blade and then gently pull the knife up, and it should bring the pit with it. really easy way to get the pit out. From there, you can take a smaller knife, and if I'm making a sandwich and I want more like slices of avocado, then I'll just cut lengthwise through, kind of make stripes through the avocado. And then I get a spoon and stick it right inside the peel, right between the peel and the avocado, and I just scoop all the way around and I get some nice slices that come right out. If I'm making a salad, then I want cubes to kind of sprinkle in the salad, and so I'll do the lengthwise cuts, but then I'll also cut the other direction too, making a checkerboard design. And then same thing, just take your spoon and scoop it out, and you'll have your nice little avocado cubes that come out. Another cool thing about avocados, once you've got the pit taken out, the peel comes off pretty easily. So if you were to actually just start peeling the skin of the avocado back, you would find it's not hard at all. You can just keep peeling it until it all comes off. And then you have a half avocado that you can just eat or snack on that way. Maybe sprinkle a little salt and pepper on it, or you can cut it any other way that you would like. So pretty simple. Also, with all of these fruits and vegetables we're going to be talking about, there are so many different ways to cut them. Lots of different tips and tricks. And so if there are any cool tricks that you know that we don't talk about, feel free to put it in the comments section. Maybe we can share your comments.
Yeah, Kristen, a funny comment actually just came through that, there's someone who actually just scoops it out with a spoon and eats it alone. So I guess when all else fails, that's an easy way to just get it in your mouth as quick as possible.
Yeah, it's true. If you're just looking for a quick snack and you don't need it to look pretty to put on anything, just spoon it out. Use the pill as your bowl. I like that. All right, mangoes are next. I love mangoes, but they're kind of a pain because they have an enormous pit in the center as well. Let's take a look at how we cut these. First of all, stand it lengthwise. And I like to be looking at the stem part so I kind of have an idea of where the center is. Like I said, there's that huge pit in the center of it, so you're not going to be able to cut directly in the center. So as I'm standing it on the end, I will move the knife over just a little bit and then slice down the side and see if I can take off that cheek of the avocado. Sometimes I'm slicing and I realize I didn't move the knife over far enough and I hit the pit. That's okay. You can just pull your knife out and then move it a little bit more over and make another slice. You'll do that on the other side as well, and then you end up with these nice two mango halves. When I was younger, I would just take a spoon to one of these mango halves and just eat it out that way. So once again, if you're looking for a quick snack, you can do that. If you're wanting to dice it up, then grab your small paring knife again, make the lengthwise cuts, and then you can cut crosswise as well, so you have that checkerboard pattern again. And then something kind of fun that I just learned is you can get a hard plastic cup, and if you place the rim of the cup just right between the peel and the fruit and then slide the fruit down, the cup will scoop out all the fruit and the peel will come right off. And all your mango cubes will fall into the cup. So that's kind of fun. Another thing you can do once you've got it sliced up is just flip the peel inside out, and then all the little pieces just kind of pop up, and then you can get your knife and slice them off. It's another easy way to get some good cubes. And then once you've done that, you still have the center section. And you're not going to get pretty looking cubes off of that, but if you're just eating the mango for a snack, then there's still a lot of good mango flesh on there. So I'll usually just get my small knife again, cut the peel off, and then just slice off the pieces of flesh. And it's one of my favorite parts of the mango, actually. It just doesn't look nice and pretty.
Kristen, a question actually just came through. It's a very interesting question about the taste of mangoes. Sometimes they taste, the participant referred to it as sap. Does that mean that it's overripe or underripe? Is there any, suggestion for that?
Yeah, it sounds like it would probably be overripe. An underripe mango isn't going to have a whole lot of flavor and it's actually going to be more sour. But as it ripens, it gets sweeter and sweeter. And when it's overripe, it does get pretty sweet. And you'll know too by the texture. If it's overripe, it's going to be pretty soft. All right, watermelons. I've heard so many different things about how to pick a good watermelon. I've covered just a few on here. You can look over this later. One thing I do want to point out though, because I thought it was really interesting, is that there should be a yellow spot on your watermelon. And I have never looked at that before, but as I've started noticing recently, there sure is a spot, and that's where the watermelon was resting on the ground when it grew. Now, if the spot is yellow, then it's probably a good ripe watermelon. If it's still white or if there isn't a spot, then it means that the watermelon was probably picked before it was ripe. And watermelons are a little bit different because once you pick a watermelon, it is not going to ripen anymore. So don't pick one that's underripe thinking it's going to ripen on your kitchen counter because it's not. You want to pick one at its very best. Watermelons are a huge fruit and it can be kind of a pain to cut them sometimes. I know that there are tons of different ways to cut watermelons, but we tried one new technique when we were cutting our watermelon, and it was actually really fun and really helpful. Now, this technique is for cubing up a watermelon. So if you have to take a bowl of watermelon to a barbecue, or if you want the watermelon in a container in your fridge where you can grab it and snack easily, this would be a great way to do it. But you start by cutting the watermelon just right through the center, right around the equator of the watermelon. And then for this next step, it will be so much easier to handle your watermelon if you flip the flat side or the watermelon side down to the cutting board. It's going to be a lot more stable. You want to also make sure you have a really nice sharp knife for this because you'll need to go through the rind. This is one of those fruits that can be a little dangerous to cut if you have a dull knife because it does require a lot of pressure, and a dull knife isn't going to do it like you need. So once the watermelon is flipped over, stick your knife about an inch up from the bottom and just make a small slit in the watermelon. Now, some people like to cut halfway through the watermelon, maybe make a half circle, but we found that if you made just a slit a few inches long, then you can stick your knife in there and kind of rotate your knife through the watermelon so that you're cutting through all the flesh but not going through the rind. You'll take out your knife and then stick it in about another inch above the first cut. Do the same thing. Small slit, rotate the knife all the way around so you're cutting through the watermelon but not the rind. And keep doing that about an inch apart until you get to the top of the watermelon and there's no more space. Once you've done that, you can flip the watermelon over. And then same thing, make that checkerboard pattern. So cut one way in stripes and then cut the other way. So it'll look like you have cubes. And then you just need to take the knife and go around the outside. Obviously, you don't want to get the white part of the watermelon, so maybe put the knife right between the white part and the red part and just slice all the way around. Now, if you do this correctly, when you tip the watermelon upside down, all the little cubes should fall out. But we learned that this takes a little bit of practice. So if you tip your watermelon rind over and most of it falls out or some of it falls out, you might need to turn your watermelon back over, make a few extra cuts until you've released all the watermelon cubes and they can all fall out. So, like I said, it's a fun way of doing it, but it does take a little practice. At least it took us a little bit of practice. I think once you get it down, though, it would be a really quick way of cutting up a watermelon.
And another way that you might be able to cut around the outside of the watermelon once you've made the slits is by using, I'm just kind of throwing it out there, maybe using a big, large, metal serving spoon. If you could somehow, make that go around the outside, it might have that curve to it, which might make it easier.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, pomegranates. I was thrilled this last winter time when I learned a new way to get the seeds out of pomegranates, because pomegranates are one of my favorites. But I found before that if I bought a pomegranate, then I needed to give myself tons of time to get all the seeds out. And honestly, I would have to change my clothes sometimes because I wouldn't, it's so messy and it sprays a little bit, and pomegranate juice can stain. So anyway, this last winter time, I learned an awesome way to cut pomegranates and to get all the seeds out, and it's made it so much faster and so much cleaner. Bet a lot of you have heard about this trick before, but you start by taking your pomegranate and with your knife, just cut through the center. Sometimes you just need to cut around the edges and then kind of twist it open. Sometimes you do need to cut all the way through. And you are going to cut through some of the seeds, so this is probably the messiest part. Might bleed just a little bit. Once you have your two halves, though, you want to loosen it up just a little bit. I like to take the knife and make maybe 3 or 4 slits close to the edge, maybe in the part of the pomegranate where there aren't very many seeds. And then I just gently open it up, break it open a little bit, and then flip it over a large bowl and get a wooden spoon and just start whacking the pomegranate. Sounds kind of funny, but and you have to whack for a while, but all the seeds will just come right out. I've used a few different spoons doing this. I've tried using a plastic spoon or a plastic utensil, and it didn't seem to have enough weight to get the pomegranate seeds out very quickly. And I've also used a metal spoon, but when I used the metal spoon, I felt like I had a little bit more spray. I think it was breaking up the seeds just a little bit. But when I used a wooden spoon, it was perfect. It was enough pressure to get the seeds out, but they were still intact and they didn't spray very much. So anyway, you really just keep whacking the pomegranate half until all those seeds come out. You may want to flip it over every once in a while and loosen it up again. Maybe pull out some of the part that the seeds have already fallen out of, and then turn it back over again and whack it. Then you just do the same thing with the second half. Okay, garlic. This is a fun one and very smelly, but we learned a new trick that helps save your fingers just a little bit from the smell. All right, so you buy your chunk of garlic, your head of garlic. You start by just separating the cloves from the head. So you want to get them all separate if you can. Of course, they're still in their wrapping. You still have to peel them. But a really easy way to do that is to just put them all in a bowl. And then we took another bowl and placed it upside down on top of the first bowl. And then holding the two bowls together, shake vigorously. And I mean vigorously. It takes a lot of shaking. We also used a plate over the first bowl. That seemed to be a little bit easier to hold. So depending on the shape of your bowls, you may want to use a plate instead. Anyway, you shake for a little while, and you have to shake hard. But then once you take a look at the garlic cloves, you'll see that a lot of the skin has come off. They kind of peel themselves. So that was really useful. There were still a few pieces that had a little bit of skin, and we just peeled it back, but so much easier than trying to peel it all by hand. And then once we had the garlic cloves, you can just mince it up, slice it long ways, and then little tiny cuts going all the way up in the other direction. We also heard a trick that if you put salt on the knife, then it'll keep the garlic from sticking to the knife, and then you don't have to use your fingers to slide it off. And that did help just a little bit. There was still a little bit of garlic on the knife, but it helped. So we just sprinkled salt on there and it stuck by itself. So kind of a fun trick. Okay, kiwi. This was a fun one. We know they have the very furry peel and you don't want to eat that. And so we learned a great way for taking that peel off. Really simple, just slice the ends off of each side of the kiwi fruit and then make a little slit down one side. Get a nice metal spoon, insert it into that cut, and then carefully slide the spoon all the way around the edge, and it takes the peel right off. And then from there you can eat your kiwi fruit, you can cut it into slices. It's a pretty quick way though to get the skin off of the kiwi fruit. Bell peppers. I love picking bell peppers because the better they look, the riper they'll be. That's a really easy way to pick a bell pepper. If they look good, they're going to taste good. All right, for your bell peppers, once again, so many different ways to cut bell peppers depending on what you're using them for. We cut this bell pepper as if we were going to eat it for a snack. Maybe you could dip it in hummus or some other sort of dip. But we got a little tiny paring knife. For this first step, I don't think you would want to use a huge knife, so the little knife will be helpful. But you just cut around the green stem at the top. And when you pull that out, it should pull a big chunk of the seeds out with it. So you can just take that, throw it away. And there's still going to be a lot of seeds in there. So I like to take the bell pepper and just hold it upside down over the sink and shake it. Once again, shake kind of vigorously to get all those seeds out, but they just come flying out. You could also do it over your trash can, I suppose. But once you have those seeds out, then I just like to cut the bell pepper in half, and that'll expose some more of that white stuff that's connected to the sides of the bell pepper. And so get your little knife and just slice that out, and then from there you can cut the bell pepper halves into slices. If you were going to dice up the bell peppers for a recipe, then you could just turn those slices the other way and make little cuts all the way up until you have diced bell pepper. Okay, papayas. Papayas are another tough one. It's kind of an odd looking fruit that you see in the grocery store, and you think, if I bought that, I would have no idea what to do with it. So hopefully this will give you an idea of how to cut a papaya. It's a very tropical fruit. A lot of the papayas you'll see are Mexican papayas. And Mexican papayas, when they're ripe, they're going to be really yellow on the outside. So this one we got wasn't quite ripe yet, but it was still pretty good. So you'll take the big papaya, just cut it in half lengthwise, and then get a spoon and scrape out all the seeds. The seeds are in there pretty good, so it does take a little bit of pressure to pull the seeds out. I've heard that you can use the seeds for garnishes or for salad dressings, but if you're not planning on using the seeds for anything, you can just throw them away. Once you've got the seeds all out of your papaya, a few different things you can do. I've seen it where you take a melon baller spoon and scoop the papaya out in little balls. And that's fine. You can do that. You can use a spoon, even just a normal spoon, and scrape the slices out. Or if you want to cut it really nice and pretty, turn the papaya over onto the flat side again, because you'll have a lot more control. And then you'll take your knife, and I like to start by just taking a long strip of the peel off the back end, and then from there it's a lot easier to just cut down the sides and remove the peel. Once you've got the peel or the skin all removed, then you can dice it up and cut it into squares. You can cut it into slices, however you want to serve it. All right, so that's all of our fruit and vegetables for today, but even after cutting all the fruits and vegetables, we still had all 10 fingers, so pretty safe, thanks to our nice sharp knives. And then once you've got all the fruits and vegetables cut up, make sure you do something with it. Store it in a way that's going to be easy to access later on. I love Ziploc bags. I also have invested in some good little Tupperware containers, and I'll keep a few of those in my fridge at a time filled with different fruits and vegetables. And then when I need a snack, I can just grab it and have a few bites, and it's a lot healthier than going for the chocolate bar in the pantry. Okay, that's the end of our presentation, but if you have any other questions or comments, please share with us. And Tara, I'll let you take over.
Thank you so much. So any additional comments, feel free to leave those. There was one that came through, which is, is always something I always, look for tools. There is actually a tool to cut peppers. The super scoop, we believe, is what it's called. And it actually, you just cut the stem off the pepper, put it in, and rotate it around, and it actually takes everything out. And I know there's another one for pineapples that are out there too, where it actually cores the pineapple for you. And, there's nothing that, we want it to be as easy as possible. So always, keep your eye out and always share different ideas with us. We would love to know. You guys may be experts in your own way with things like this. We all have our own ways. So I definitely appreciate everyone joining in and the conversation that we had in the chat today. Fantastic suggestions. So thank you to Kristen for the information today. Just as a heads up for what's coming up in the next couple weeks, on July 29th, same time, same place, we will actually be sending out another webinar about motivation that will be presented by Nate. He's an expert in sports psychology, and a lot of the sports psychology is surrounding motivation, internal motivation and external motivation, and the different barriers that get in our way. So I hope you're looking forward to that, as are we. For this presentation, in the chat bar, I am posting a link. This link, if you do click on it, this is going to be giving you health promotion credit. Once you do complete that brief survey, we will award your health promotion credit or points for watching this webinar today. But also, as Kristen mentioned at the beginning, there will be a post-webinar email that will go out as well. So if you want to take a look at the presentation later with the different slides, the different pictures, that email will be sent out as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. And you can share it with anyone that you may find it interesting. I'm definitely going to share it with my mom. So hopefully you all found it valuable as well. So feel free to click on that link. We look forward to seeing you and hearing from you in a couple weeks, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.